Hello, everyone. Let's take a more focused look at the Mars transit right now. This is a very instigating, active, visceral, catalyzing Mars happening at a very powerful turning point in this month. So this is the second half of the month now. Sun and Pluto are joining, about to enter Aquarius, Uranus soon to station direct. But Mars is the key player. Mars is always the planetary function that will activate and instigate activity and bring us back to the playing field where we ask ourselves, what do I want to do? And there are two experiences that we can have in general. We can sort of feel, I don't know what to do with life. What am I doing? What's my purpose? What's my direction? And not really have this engaged sense of what it is we're even responding to. That is harder than being really challenged and instigated by something that pushes us or triggers us or makes us angry. While it's more uncomfortable, it's more tangible content. When we're instigated, there's a clear content to work with. And so it really brings us back to the reality of we're called upon to act, to make choices, to do something. And sometimes that happens, that instigation happens to push us into our soul, to push us into our path. Sometimes being challenged or difficult experiences serve that purpose of bringing us into our will, bringing us into our choice making, into our agency. And I think this is one of those times. In its most extreme expression, Mars in Capricorn can actually be a sort of depression. Feeling that one is just following the route or the movement of one's life, but not connected to that empowered quality of purpose and will and direction and choice. So within that expression, there's a loss of energy. There isn't the feeling of one being the master or cultivating mastery of one's human incarnation. It's more about I'm stuck or defined or stuck in these patterns, habits, addictions, relationships, jobs, where the structural reality, Capricorn, of our life becomes a place where we have no choice, where we're just defined and confined and Capricorn stuck and jailed, right? Where the form of our life holds us in place. And that's hard because this ends up resulting in a lot of suppressed energy. All this Mars energy, if it's sort of stuck and it's not connected to choice and will and purpose and what I want to do and what I'm here for and how I'm going to claim it, this energy for movement and direction and will has to go somewhere. So it can eventually manifest, create, attract external events that will be holding that energy for us, right? Things are going to start moving or happening, or in our relationships, which is emphasized with this nodal axis here being in Libra and Aries, right? Our relationships can be triggering us. We can feel ourselves really being thwarted, that our freedom, that our agency, that our choices aren't supported. But all of that is just pointing us back to where we're not living our life, where we're not living our soul purpose. Right? The other is that anger or that energy or that will can sort of leak out in unregulated ways, right? A sort of aggressiveness that isn't directed or controlled, creating confrontation in one's life. So this is all about coming into alignment with our freedom of choice and our will to make choices. And if we don't have a connection to that, which to a certain extent, none of us do entirely, meaning there's an extent to which we don't know the immensity of our freedom. I think if we did, it would be a different playing game entirely. A part of the soul journey, in my view, is the unraveling of our agency and the awakening to the truth of our freedom and our immense power. And this is what we learn when we look at Pluto relative to Mars, right? It's fundamentally, are we going to make choices that reflect a psychological state of victimization and stuckness? Or are we going to make choices that reflect our underlying cooperation with our evolutionary purpose? And it's really all about that at the end of the day. Resistance or cooperation. And resistance will always resonate with some level of defense and protection and victimization. And cooperation is always going to say, I'm going to take responsibility to do the work that is necessary. So this has to come from wisdom. We can't just like intellectually figure this stuff out. There's a sort of wisdom, and in this case, this wisdom is born from the oomph of that Mars pressure in Capricorn. Things are moving. I'm not getting where I want to go. And it's calling us into action. Choices are to be made. And so here, with that axis in Libra Aries, there are two things to say. Agreements, consensual decisions, conversations that are oriented around practically looking at what's actually going on. It's not just an intimate relationship. Everything in life is a relationship. If you're trying to start a business, you can't just say, hi world, here's my business. You have all this zest and you put on your suit and you brushed your hair and you took a good shower in the morning. And that Mars in Capricorn is ready to conquer the world, but no one's buying your product. You're not making any deals. Why? You're not nurturing relationship. And that's the hard part of that Mars relative to the Libra. It's about really getting to know you're not just here alone, solo, figuring all of this out. Other people have needs, have wants, have expectations. How can you participate and work with that? Relationally, intimately, in family, in partnership, in business, in every arena of our life. It's always about intimacy. It's always about relationship. But if we become too consumed, too concerned with what do people want of me, then we're not in our agency, and then we get angry because we're holding ourselves back, and boom, that Aries North Node. So the key is to claim one's purpose, but not to push through or steamroll other people. Nor is it about claiming one's purpose and then seeing that other people are somehow, or the world at large is somehow affecting or preventing me from doing what I'm here to do. Taking responsibility says things are as they are, the world and people are as they are. And I have my purpose, and I have a lot of power and energy. What am I going to do with it? How am I going to work consciously? Now, there can be a hastiness with Mars and Capricorn, wanting to rush, wanting to force, and we can project that on other people, wanting more progress, wanting the aspects of our life to go quicker, become more successful. And we may not know how much energy we have. That's the interesting thing with Mars and Capricorn. Because of the time pressure and that sense of stress and feeling stuck, we might be very limited and narrow in our awareness. I gotta get it done. And so we kind of see life as an obstacle to overcome. Like it's really hard and I gotta fight really hard, and it's very isolating, can be very depressing and difficult. Sort of that archetype of that person just sacrifices and works really hard to just get a little bit of success, but still has to answer to the boss. But maybe in 10 years I'll get a promotion. There can be this defeatist mentality here that only knows to just push and rush and sacrifice and hurt oneself in the process. Having all this raw energy and power doesn't mean we need to be hasty, because we know that there are things to get done, and there can be a sense of time is running out, or that internal sense of if I don't claim my life, I'm never going to get there. Or as if like there are a lot of choices and consequences at stake right now. It doesn't mean being hasty, and this Mars in Capricorn really offers an essential distinction between, maybe we can say, hastiness versus immediacy. Immediacy has this quality of, or imminency, that's a better word. Let's say that. That's the word I'm looking for, imminency. Imminency sort of brings us to this moment calls for your leadership and attention. It's imminent. Awakening is imminent. Purpose is imminent. The truth of your agency and your calling to live and act in alignment now is imminent. It's not tomorrow. It's not who we are. We're called into the fact and the truth and the reality of what's actually happening right now. And the quality of imminence is we can't wait for that. We can always push it off, but it's always imminent. It's always imminent. You know, in different spiritual traditions or religions, there's that, the sense of the Messiah is imminent. In the Jewish culture, growing up, there's always that sense of Mashiach, the Messiah could come any moment, that imminency, right? And then your practice, you're doing the mitzvot, doing what you need to do to bring on the Messiah. There's an imminency to it. But it's not hasty. So hastiness is a deprived state. It's an impoverished state. that thinks that it needs to just steamroll and push forward to get things done because I may not make it in time. I had this really interesting experience where I was with my youngest daughter driving to the store to refill our carbon cartridge that we use for carbonated water. The store closes at 5. We left the house just before 5. It's about a 7-minute drive. And the entire time that I'm driving there, just about 70% of my drive, I'm just thinking about getting there. And if a car is in front of me and they're going slow or I got stopped at the red light, I would feel disempowered. Oh no, it's a red light. We're not going to make it. Oh, you got to go faster. And I'm not like a road ragey type of person, but I was really fixed on getting there. It took a lot to put her in the car. We have to park. I have to take her out of the car. Then we got to walk in the store. If I don't do it now, I have to do it a different time. I have such little time. There's so much I got to do. I wish I can get it now. Be great for everyone to, have this tonight. I was really fixed on this sense of rush, and I didn't want the inconvenience of failing, and it's a sense of failure to not get there on time. And about 70% into the drive, I just realized what I was doing. I realized what I was doing and actually thought this is a good Mars and Capricorn teaching. And I said, what would it be to commit myself to enjoy the rest of this ride? I'm going to do my best. I don't have to go the exact speed limit. I can go a little over, but I'm not going to speed and be dangerous. And I'm going to trust what happens. All I can do is do my best, Capricorn. Do my best. Could I have left earlier? Yes. Can I change that? No. Can I do better next time? Yes. Is being stressed about it helpful? No. Learning from it useful? Absolutely. Do my best. And I parked. And I just appreciated how easy it is to live our lives in that sort of state of unnecessary haste and rush, all kinds of things. It's like we do that to ourselves and to each other when we don't need to. It's really interesting. We just get hooked on these ideas of success, and that's what it's about. If this doesn't happen right now or in the ways or in the timing that I've decided it needs to happen, I will be a failure, meaning I'm not going to be where I'm supposed to be according to my own decision about what that means at this moment in my life, and that's going to be a fundamental setback. If it's a setback, I'm not going to be able to achieve my purpose. I'm not going to actually have an actualized life. Everything's going to fall apart. It's going to be my fault. I'm a failure. There's so much identity underneath the surface of our stress and of our hastiness. What if you're late? What if the store closes? What if you failed in your efforts? What if the relationship didn't work out the way you wanted it to? What if you launched the business and it didn't work out and it's a total failure? What if? The question really becomes not so much, how could I not fail? How could there not be confrontation or setbacks or difficulties? How can I practice cultivating greater alignment, maturity, and what's the word? There's a word I'm looking for, which is walking with ethics, right? Walking ethically is doing one's best and having integrity with the steps that we're taking. So even if it doesn't work out, the bricks that we're laying, we feel good about that. Our conscience can rest, saying, I know I was acting in harmony, in resonance with my own inner ethics, my own morality, right? The combination of this is making choices and responding and meeting the hardness, but slowing down. And so the imminency is there's something to deal with, but let's say it's relational. Slow down in that relationship. Meet, right? It could be don't avoid dealing with hard things. Don't avoid getting up and doing your business work. Don't avoid thinking about your schedule and your time and really structuring some boundaries. But when you actually do it, it's reposed. When you have that conversation, when you talk to the person building your website, or when you set the schedule for the next program, it's reposed. The need to do it is before us now. But it's reposed. Mars always has this quality of being first. It's moving. It's saying time to start, time to start. In its most adversarial expression, it can be competitive, right? But when we take that energy and we bring it to our own practice, I think it really is this renewal of devotion and focus to start now. One last thing that I want to share about this really does give emphasis towards the Aries component of it. Because I think for all of us, there's a leadership threshold where we are called to move in directions that we haven't known before. Relative to Libra, this might mean people don't necessarily agree with or approve of, right? Our own addictions to affinity, to being accepted, to being liked, can easily get in the way. Well, that just results in a lot of stress or possibly anger if we're not claiming our own self-agency. So it does bring us back to, we are to be the leaders of our own soul path. No one's going to make these choices for us. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to be willing to try and to fail and to say, I'm taking full responsibility for my experiences, for my learning. It's up to me to allow myself to grow into greater maturity and mastery. Over the next week, and let's just take a quick look at this transit. So let's go by day. Today's the 17th. So watch Mars. Here we have the planets moving into Aquarius. We have the square to Chiron on the 24th or so. And then, Mercury joins on the 27th, 28th. We square right here on the cusp of 18 and 17 degrees. We square the nodes. So that latter part of January, there's a lot of strong instigation. And I think this says there can be some level of tenderness and self-doubt. How do I know this is going to work if I've never been there before? Chiron and Aries. Am I strong enough? Can I trust myself? Am I capable enough? It's scary to do something new. What if this choice means I'm not making this other choice? And I can't undo that. I can always make new choices, but there's always this certain level of anxiety within strong Aries-Mars experiences. To embrace that with vulnerability, with humility, says we don't have to fight a war. We can honor and bow to our own individuation process where there's work to do, even if we feel unsure, even if we feel alone, even if we're not certain about ourselves. We get to try and we get to practice. And there's always this medicine that we give here. And this is really emphasized now and for the next couple months as we move to the next eclipse season, which will be on Chiron. Being courageous to do it, even if you're not sure if you're ready, and even if you might fail, but trying your best and taking responsibility and cleaning up our act in the process brings medicine forward that wouldn't have been brought forward. We heal, we learn, we realize more strength and capacity, and more people receive benefit than if we had just sat on our seat and not done anything new. So this is a calling for that trust in ourselves, and the willingness to start, the willingness to grow, the willingness to learn. And Mars in Capricorn is both the warrior leader, but also the little child that doesn't know, right? Children will try to be adults and do adult things, but they won't do it well. And then the adults come in and say, hey, try only carrying one dish at a time. And they'll pretend to play adult things, but it's the adult's job to teach kids how to grow into maturity, how to become aware of how to work with their energy, not to hit, not to pull, not to take things from other people. Ways to ask, express your needs, but respect other people's freedom as well. Look both ways when you cross the street, not just to act on our own impulses. So this energy says, in some way, we're all maturing from that adolescence to that greater maturity, right? And the arc of Capricorn is from that adolescence ultimately to the elder stage. And we have to allow ourselves to grow. Learn from those who have come before. It's not about pretending that we're the elders, but nor is it about denying ourselves the opportunity to try and to grow and to learn along the way. The only way children learn is by trying to walk, falling, getting up, and going again. Getting on the bike, falling off, starting again. And learning, okay, when I go too far, when I don't look both ways, when I take what I want without asking, it doesn't work. That's the only way to learn. So it's a powerful time, very instigating and very energized. May it be a time of deep growth and soul alignment for us all. Thank you for watching. Reminder, the complete training program is now open for enrollment. This is for anyone that is drawn towards spirituality, understanding your soul and your own spiritual evolution through the lens of astrology. It's available for anyone drawn to this work, both beginners and advanced students alike. Check it out in the description below.